In this video, you will learn how to track your students' progress on their design projects, provide students feedback on their designs, have your students submit their homework via Share Public Link, get interactive help through the Learning Panel, and visualize designs in augmented reality. Now I'll introduce these topics. File history will help you keep track of your students' projects and see who is making the edits and when. Remember, every time you save a file inside of Fusion 360, a version is created. To see a file's history, show the Data panel, and in the History area, you'll see when the file was saved and who saved that file. You can also use the timeline to quickly review how your students created their designs. In the timeline, you can drag the history marker, and you can also play through the actions. Reviewing a file's property is another way to see if the design was modeled correctly. If their physical properties match yours, they probably modeled it correctly. In the browser, right-click on a component or the assembly's name, and then click Properties from the menu. To see the properties, expand the Physical section. You can also add comments and add markups to your students' designs. We have 3 ways to do this. While inside of Fusion 360, you can add comments by expanding the Comments section. You can also add comments via browser by going to a360.autodesk.com. You can also access the website by showing the Data panel, and to the right of the current project, click on Open on the Web. The third option is to use the Fusion 360 mobile app that is available on the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. Note that all comments and markups are displayed in Fusion 360 in the Comments section for the specific design file. When students are submitting homework, you can also have them create a Share Public Link and give you the link. Then open the link in a web browser, and here you can review the design. And from the link, you can also open the file inside of Fusion 360. There's 2 methods to create a Share Public Link. The first method is through the Data panel. Simply right-click on the desired file, and from the menu, click Share Public Link. For the second method, click on the File menu, and then Share, and then click Public Link. In the Share Public Link dialog box, make sure that the option is checked that will allow this to be shared. To be able to download or open that file inside of Fusion 360, make sure that your students also check the Allow Item to be Downloaded option. And then copy the URL to the clipboard and have your students submit that URL. And then open the link in a web browser. Note that Fusion 360 does not need to be installed or running for you to view the file in your browser. Your students can get help on the current tool that they're using inside of Fusion 360 by turning on the Learning panel. To display the Learning panel, click on the question mark on the top right corner of your screen, and then click Show Learning panel. In the Learning panel, ensure that the interactive option is set to On. The topics in the Learning panel will automatically change to match the current tool that you're running. Have your students see their designs superimposed in the real world by utilizing augmented reality technology. To create an augmented reality file, click on the File menu, and then Export, and then click USDZ. Note that all appearances are not supported in the USDZ file. Unsupported appearances will be changed to the appearance steel satin. For example, the 3D wood appearances are not supported. After exporting the file, either email yourself the file or copy the file on a drive that is accessible on your mobile device, and then open the file on an iOS device. Note that currently the USDZ file can only be viewed natively on iOS 12 and above devices. Now inside of Fusion 360, let's start by looking at how you can track the progress your students are making on their designs. To do this, I'm going to show the Data panel and then display the versions for the desired file, and then scroll down. And to see all the versions, click on Show All Versions. Here you can see when the version was saved and who worked on that specific version. If needed, you can also open up the file by clicking on the 3 dots and then click on Open. I'm going to minimize these versions and close the Data panel. Next, I'll discuss how you can use the timeline to see the steps that your student went through to create the design. I'll start by making the bracket component active, and then drag the history marker to see how this file was created. You can also run through these steps by clicking on the play button. And now I'll make the top level assembly active again. And to see the clevis, I'm going to move the history marker to the far right side. Another option to verify the accuracy of your student's design is to review either the assembly or the component's properties. To review the properties of a component or the assembly, simply right-click on its file name in the browser. In this case, I'm going to right-click on the bracket and click Properties. To see more information about this bracket component, I'm going to minimize the General and the Manage section and expand the Physical section. Here, I can see more information about the bracket. Now I'm going to close the Properties dialog box. Next, I'm going to talk about how you can provide feedback to your students about their designs. You have 3 different methods to do so. For the first method, expand the comments area in the lower left-hand corner of the canvas. And here I can capture an image, and I can also add a comment to an object. If comments have been previously added to this design, you can scroll down to see them. And if needed, you can reply to the comments. Note that no matter which method you use to add comments, they all show up here in the comments section. The second method to add a comment is through your web browser. Simply go to a360.autodesk.com. You can also access this website by showing the data panel, and in this section, just to the right of the active project, and click Open on the Web. The third method to add a comment is through the Fusion 360 mobile app, and that's what I'm going to do now. Now I'm in the Fusion 360 app on my iPad. I'm going to scroll on down and open up the bracket assembly file. Tapping on the tools on the left-hand side, I can get more information about this assembly. By tapping on Designs, I can see all the components that are in this assembly. Tap on Properties, and then tap on a component, and you'll see that component's properties. Under Comments, you'll see any comments that have previously been posted. Data created in the workspaces will be found under the Assets menu. I'm going to play the storyboard that was created in the Animation workspace. And you can also change your viewpoint. Now I'll use the Measure tool, and I'll tap on both outside vertical faces. Notice that the 2-inch dimension in the Y direction matches the actual dimension. Next, I'll add a markup and a text note. And then I'll add an arrow. To create the comment, on the top right corner of the screen, I'll tap on Post. And the comment has been created. Now back inside of Fusion 360, you can see the markup that I added in my iPad is now here in the comments area. To enlarge the markup, simply click on the thumbnail. You can also change the viewpoint here inside of Fusion 360 to match the viewpoint that you had when you did the markup. To do that, just click in the area to the right of the thumbnail, and you can see that the viewpoint changed. Now I'm going to minimize the comments area and switch back to my home view. For our next topic, let's discuss how your students can submit their homework. Instead of navigating and opening every student's file, you can ask each student to create a share public link and send you the URL. If the file is open, simply go under the File menu and then click on Share, and then click on Public Link. You can also do this through the data panel. Simply right-click on the desired file, and from the menu, click on Share Public Link. In the dialog box, check the option to share the latest version. Also, make sure that the option Allow Items to be Downloaded is checked. This option checked via the link, you can download the file into different formats and also open the file inside of Fusion 360. The last thing you want to do is copy the URL to the clipboard and then ask your students to send you this URL. Now I'm going to close the dialog box and open the URL in Chrome. Now the URL is open in my web browser. Here you'll see that I have the same functionality that I showed in the mobile app. Note that markups made via Share Public Link can only be saved as a raster file and are not posted to the comments section in the design file. In a Share Public Link, you also have some additional options. For example, you can do a section analysis. You can also separate the components by clicking on the Explode Model option and drag the slider to separate the components. Note that this explode option is not the same as an animation. If the design file has an animation, you can play that by coming up here on the left-hand side and click on Animation. When the Share Public Link was created, and if that download option was checked in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see that you can download the files into different file formats. And here you can also open the file inside of Fusion 360. Next, I want to show you how your students can get interactive help while running Fusion 360. They can get this help by turning on the Learning panel. I'm going to start by creating a new file. Click on the question mark, and then click on Show Learning Panel. Now ensure that the interactive option is turned on. Now watch the topics in the Learning panel change as I use different tools to create a sketch and extrude it. And when you're done, close the Learning panel. The last topic I want to discuss is how your students can superimpose their designs in the real world by creating an augmented reality file. To demonstrate this, I'm going to make my footstool design file active. When the design is complete, you can export an augmented reality file by going under the File menu and then click Export. And then in the dialog box, adjust the file name if needed. And then you're going to change the file type to USDZ. Note that currently the USDZ file can only be viewed natively on iOS 12 and above devices. Then verify where the file will be saved and then click Export. To open the USDZ file on your iOS device, you can either email it to yourself or copy the file to a drive that is accessible on your mobile device. Now I'm viewing the USDZ file on my iPad. The first thing to do is point your camera at a flat surface. Then you can rotate and scale your model. And change your viewpoint to see how your design looks in your environment. And this completes this video on teaching tools in Fusion 360. Thanks for watching.